Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started, given that we have lots of information we would like to share with y'all today. So we're going to go ahead, if we can go to the next slide, please. Hi, so just want to do a quick welcome. My name is Yana Vázquez Ballesteros. I'm the Alleged Director for the Department of Toxic Substance Control, and I definitely want to welcome everybody for attending our last core briefing that we have for this week. We have already gone through 2 of these last week, so this is going to be the last for the Hazardous Waste Management Program. We're going to do a quick overview for the agenda for today of comprehensive reform approach by, it's going to be given by Francesca Negri. And then after that, it's going to be Rizgar Hassi, who's going to be actually doing a quick overview of all the programs we have currently in the hazardous waste management programs. And he's going to cover 4 different division programs throughout the next 2 hours. The way we're going to go through it is we're going to cover 2 programs in the first hour, and this is with Q&A after each presentation. And then afterwards, we're going to go over the last 2 programs, and then we're going to also include Q&A. We're going to allow about 10 minutes for Q&A, and in between of those presentations, we're going to actually break around 3:55 so we can transition to the 4 o'clock briefing. I'm going to reshare a link through the chat so y'all can either register or re-register. If you already have the link for the 4 o'clock, just go ahead and join that, given that we have 2 different distinctions of links. And then from there, we can start the other 2 presentations. With that, though, I'm going to open it up. And then at the end of each presentation, like I mentioned, it's going to be Q&A. And then we're going to go through how we can provide a Q&A either through the chat or by raising your hand. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Francesca Negri, who's the Chief Deputy Director of the Department of Toxic Control. Thank you.
Francesca. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Deanna, and thanks everybody for being here and for your interest in DTSC, and we're very excited to walk you through in greater detail the results of our workload analyses. And for those who are not able to attend our higher level briefing on this, the department conducted a workload analysis to bring clarity to how we're using our current resource levels and to identify areas where we could make improvements to how we manage those resources, and then finally to bring clarity to what we're not resourced to do. We have many statutory authorities, and we're simply not resourced to deliver all those, and that fits into this administration's comprehensive fee and governance reform package in a very specific way. And first of all, just to acknowledge the work that we do here at DTSC is really important to protecting the environment and public health. It contributes to economic vitality, particularly in communities that have been disproportionately burdened by the impacts of hazardous substances. And over time, though, we've been hampered by, increases in unfunded statutory authorities, fiscal constraints, and a static fee structure. And this governor's proposal makes a significant investment into DTSC and recognizes the responsible stewardship of public resources and the efforts that we've been taking over the past several years to improve our service levels. The reform package answers 3 basic questions. The first being, which ties directly into, or where the workload analysis directly supports the first question, which is what service levels should DTSC be providing in order to maximize our ability to protect public health and the environment. This brings clarity. The workload analyses and our presentations brings clarity to everybody, and hopefully we have a common understanding of what we're doing with our resources and where we're not resourced to deliver, so that we can have those meaningful conversations in the future. The second question this reform package answers is what fees and what fee structure should be put in place to support our service levels, and a structure where the fees are equitably distributed and which disincentivize the mismanagement of hazardous waste is crucially important. And the final question that this reform package addresses is what governance structure should be put in place to increase transparency and accountability for all of DTSC's programs and services. So building on the significant programmatic and process reforms already underway, the administration has made a commitment to this reform package, and we're very excited to share with you information that should help these ongoing conversations. I'm looking forward to engaging in the Q&A section after Rizgar's presentation and to further conversations down the road about these three crucial areas of the reform package. And for now, I'm going to hand over the mic to Deputy Director Rizgar Ghazi to start his presentation.
Thank you, Francesca, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Hazardous Waste Management Program's presentations. Again, my name is Rizgar Ghazi, and I'm the Deputy Director for the Hazardous Waste Management Program. As Francesca stated, I am going to lead you through a high-level overview of the workload analysis for the Hazardous Waste Management Program. And what you see in front of you is the organizational structure for the Hazardous Waste Management Program. We consist of four divisions: the Permitting Program, Enforcement and Emergency Response Division, Office of Criminal Investigation, and Policy and Program Support Branch. Please move on to the next slide. One more time. So the first one on the line here is the Office of Criminal Investigations. This office holds accountable individuals and businesses who engage in illegal hazardous waste activities that harm and pose serious risks to the public, the environment, and our communities. We investigate crimes, environmental justice communities, and OCI is unique in a sense because this is the only group with a sworn peace officers with expertise in environmental crimes. Because of that, we are called upon to provide support to all other BDOs within Cali, PA, and other agencies throughout the state of California, including the federal government. Our portfolio consists of cases of individuals committing crimes and large multi-billion-dollar corporations. Next slide, please.
Rizgar, you're muted.
Oh, thank you. Sorry about that. OCI consists of equal number of sworn law enforcement officers and scientists. We also have specialized computer forensics unit that supports our investigators in when we confiscate computers and electronic devices. Overall, there are 32 funded positions in this program with an operational budget of $6 million. Our staff are located throughout California, so we have investigators and scientists in Sacramento, Berkeley, Chatsworth, Chatsworth, and San Diego offices. Next slide, please. As you might have heard from the other presentation, we are a data-driven organization, and we track closely and monitor our hours spent throughout our timekeeping system. Our staff have logged 66% of their hours for investigations and enforcement activities, including management of and supervision of staff. We track cases and provide technical training specific to environmental law enforcement and investigations such as peace officer standards, trainings. OCI case workload includes hazardous waste investigation coordinated with local government, statewide agencies, and other law enforcement organizations. OCI logged 60% of its hours for administrative activities. These activities capture all the work required to maintain everyday programmatic operations, including maintenance of equipment, use in investigations, strategic planning, and participation in statewide meetings. Our administrative training accounts for only 2% of our staff hours. This includes mandated training such as ethics training, cybersecurity, and sexual harassment prevention. Next slide, please. And we do track our performance. And I would categorize the work into buckets. The first bucket is the enforcement investigations, and these comprise of follow-ups on complaints, conducting investigation in environmental justice communities, and doing inspections of metal recycling facilities. The second bucket of work that we do, it would consist of doing assist to other government partners such as USCPA, local DAs, and our BDOs within the Cal EPA agency. So for the fiscal year of 18-19, we investigated approximately 112 complaints from the Cal EPA complaint hotline. We also conducted 14 high-priority metal recycling investigations. Just to note here, 75% of these metal recycler investigations ended up in enforcement cases. In 18-19, the program also closed out 59 cases. These include 38 enforcement cases. They include investigation in environmental justice communities, e-waste, and illegal hazardous waste disposal cases. 21 of these cases were government-assessed cases with federal, state, and local agencies. These cases were environmental crimes in nature. It takes about approximately, if you look at the chart here, it takes approximately 203 days to conduct an enforcement case. This is from the start of the case to move it forward, either for prosecution or to close the case. And with an average of 103 days for government-assist cases. The average here, it looks like 167 days for both these type of enforcement cases. Next slide, please. This is a really good graphics and telling the type of work that the OCI could take on. This is an example of, we have an example of the cannabis investigation that our OCI group does. There are approximately 300 illegal grow operations in California. Again, these are not the licensed grow operation. These are the illegal operations. Our OCI folks, out of 300,000, were able to take on 7 cases in 18-19. Again, we assisted our other government agencies, 21 cases, and we were able to assist them on all 21. We do multimedia e-government enforcement complaints. There are approximately 2,300 complaints that come into the system, and we're only able to handle 112 cases. There are 1,300 recyclers in California, up to 2,000, and we are able to to do 18 of those. As you recall, we had received a BCPR in prior years to do 14 inspections at metal recyclers. In 18-19, we did 18. Again, these cases have high enforcement outcomes out of them. Here's a really sad story here. So we have 25,000 jewelry stores in California, and our OCI in 18-19 were not able to inspect any of these jewelers. In the past, we had part of the Environmental Justice Initiative. We had gone out to metal jewelry stores and had a high frequency of enforcement cases. These are jewelry stores that sell lead, contaminated jewelry that children wear and play with. We also have about 5,000 peddlers in California. These are the folks that you and I take our recycled, broken down appliances, vehicles, and these peddlers are about 5,000 peddlers in California. We have conducted zero inspections of these facilities. There's large cases that in California that we could be doing as part of OCI and our enforcement and emergency response program. Let's move on to the next slide, please. So this graphics shows that, again, I talked about that we use our data to drive how well we do in our work. And and the OCI had implemented a project, a Lean Six Sigma project, to decrease the number of hours it takes for us to refer a case. In this case, prior to 2015-16, we were able to process cases where we refer cases for prosecution within 180 days at 28% rate. After the Lean Six Sigma project, we were able to increase that number to 90% of our cases being moved to for prosecution or being closed. We also, part of this project, we created a robust tracking system that our division chief and managers could track all the projects and the status of the project, including me. and we can report out every whenever information is requested. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So again, we are a data-driven organization. I wanted to show you here, showcase 3 projects, cases that we, OCI had taken in recent years. And you can find these cases in the workload analysis that we provided to you. Today, I'm just going to talk about the first one, and this is the metal recyclers. The department had received a limited number of resources to do inspections at metal recyclers and metal shredder facilities. In this case, we had a goal of completing these cases within 180 days. So, moving a case for 80 days prior to Lean Six Sigma. This case, the metal recyclers, we have approximately, we conduct 14 inspections a year. And again, we have a rate of enforcement cases that equates to about 70% of these cases convert to an enforcement case. Just 2 weeks ago, in fact, we had just settled an enforcement case to a large metal shred facilities in the Oakland community, West Oakland area, and environmental justice community for $4.9 million. The highlight of that case was it took a lot of tenacity on our OCI staff to after and inspect and take a lot of samples to demonstrate the environmental impacts this facility had on the communities. The settlement included approximately $2 million in SEPs. And SEPs are funds that goes back to the community for environmental justice work and to support the communities from the damages caused by this facility. Next slide, please. So I wanted to share with you some of the data gaps, part of analysis we did. We found a data gap in how we, what things are not getting done in the department. And one of the things that we discovered, excuse me, I'm losing my slide here. One of the things that we did, OCI did an analysis of the data. And right now we have 32 positions within the program. And again, I just want to remind you back on that slide where we had a lot of work that could have been done by the program and is not being met. What we're asking for, part of the gap analysis, we looked at, again, acquiring 15 additional positions. And these positions will support us in doing additional investigations in environmental justice communities. And we're thinking about that 15 position will increase our inspection rates by approximately to 50 to 100 facilities that we can do inspections. And with the 50 to 100 inspection, we will focus on the cannabis growers, the metal jewelry stores, and of course the metal recyclers and the metal peddlers as well. And with that, the analysis showed that 15 positions will situate the enforcement, will bring back the OCI staffing level to 2008 levels prior to the economic downturn at that time. Next slide, please. So what are the key takeaways? OCI plays a pivotal role in protecting the environment and the people of California. They conduct work that's unique to the department and unique to the Cal EPA and other within the state of California. And as I said, this is the only program at Cal EPA. OCI conducts statewide investigations jointly with federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies. I wanted to take away from this is this slide has a lot of case studies, including case studies that we went after multi-billion-dollar agencies and netted with millions of dollars that as enforcement cases and corrected some of the disposal of hazardous waste to our landfills, precious landfills that are located in environmental justice communities. Next slide, please.
Awesome.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Rosgar. So this is, we're going to have a little bit under 5 minutes to just ask a couple questions that we have or that the audience has on this specific presentation, and then we're going to move on to the second presentation. So for folks who have any questions, if you want to use the text only, you can actually write your question through the Q&A feature, or if you want to ask your question, please go ahead and raise your hand and I can call on you. Okay. I have a question. Hold on, and it's from Mary Lou. I'm going to have her ask her question. Go ahead. You can unmute yourself, Mary.
Hi there. Two quick questions for you. One is whether there has been any discussion about DTSC tapping into the cannabis enforcement funds. The cannabis tax does have, I can't remember the details, but the cannabis tax does have money available for enforcement action, and has DTSC been able to take advantage of that? And then the second question is, that's a great slide that shows kind of the inspection universe and how many inspections have been done actually in there. But can you also talk about what DTSC feels are the inspection goals for those? Should we think for those categories? Should we be thinking about it in terms of those categories? Like, how often do you want to be able to inspect for? What should be the resources to be put forward for illegal cannabis grows versus inspecting metal shredders versus children's jewelry stores?
Thank you. Those are really good questions. I'll answer the cannabis question first. Where are resources to be spent in OCI? As you know, OCI does a variety of work, and what the slide had showed you was at different times where we did have the resources, we did inspections, and the cannabis growers. In fact, one of the slides I did not share here, it's in the workload analysis, talks about the work that OCI did at the border. A lot of the chemicals that's used for these illegal grows, such as pesticides and herbicides, are funneled in through the Mexico-California border. And these chemicals are brought into the California and used in these areas. So we had to cut off that source of illegal waste coming in, illegal chemicals coming in. We work closely with the US EPA in that case to try to cut off the incoming. However, these materials do come in often. And again, the percentage of resources you want to spend, when we looked at the analysis, we looked at different scenarios and level of service that we could provide. And what we shared here is the appropriate level of service that we could take on as a program to immediately see impacts. And of course, the analysis, we also, when we looked at this, we looked at different levels of service where we, instead of 15 positions, we looked at 30 positions and up to 100 positions. And again, there are pros and cons to these modeling scenarios and number of resources we get. Again, the rate of growth of the program could be hampered because of the growth of the program. And so we thought the number we had shared here on the slide is the appropriate number of resources that we could implement quickly and to get results. As for what areas we want to cover, these are the areas that we all think there are. Any of those areas that we could cover are important for us. And again, this dialogue isn't just for us to talk about. This is where we want your feedback. So if there's areas that the community and Californians want us to engage in and how we spend these resources, the 15 position we're asking for, definitely we're open to that discussion.
So, and I'll just add to that. Thank you, Marie, for that question. Fantastic question. And as Rizgar indicated, we analyzed where we could get the biggest bang for the buck, given the type of experience and expertise that we have and where we could add value. And looking at funding, is certainly part of the conversations that we hope to have with you all moving forward. Positions are necessary in order for us to conduct this work using our authorities and using our specific expertise. And one comment that I'll add to Rizgar's discussion about the border is we just simply don't have enough resources down there to respond to our federal partners and our local partners' requests that we help to prevent illegal pesticide from coming in over the border that's used on these illegal grows. So we know we need more manpower down in that area for that specific type of investigation.
Has there been a discussion about being able to use the cannabis fund for the cannabis-related inspections?
We're looking at all available funding, to support, these resources. I think the first step was for us to take a look at the resources that we have, what they're being used for. That's what these conversations are about. Certainly, we'll be looking at the use of those resources to fund additional positions for those activities.
Thank you. And with that, given that's 3:30, and I have a couple questions in the queue, but what we can do, we can answer them. We can go ahead and provide you an answer through email, so we can actually go into the second presentation, and we can allow a little bit more of a Q&A for that. And the second presentation is going to be specifically on the Enforcement and Emergency Response Division. And if we can go into the next slide, and then Rizgar. And then we're going to have at least 20 minutes for this presentation, and then there's some Q&A. And like I mentioned, then we're going to transition to the additional link for the second briefing. Okay, go ahead, Rizgar.
Thank you, Deanna. Next slide, please. This presentation is going to be about the Enforcement and Emergency Response Division. ERD, the acronym for that division is ERD, is one of the two enforcement entities that under our hazardous waste management program. We work closely, alongside our Office of Criminal Investigations and providing them with technical support. And this ranges from assisting them with the sampling and providing subject matter expertise to their criminal cases. Next slide, please. So the mission of the ERD is to, the Enforcement and Emergency Response Division is to protect people and environment through inspections, enforcement, and emergency response. We target 60% of our inspections at or near environmental justice communities. 74% of our illegal drug labs and off-highway removals were performed in disadvantaged communities. Next slide, please. This is what you see here is the org chart for the Office of Emergency Response and Enforcement. The ERD consists of 106 positions with staff located throughout California in 8 offices. Division also manages 2 of the CUPAs in California, Trinity County and Imperial County CUPA. There are approximately 106 staff with 91 scientists, 2 engineers, and an engineering geologist with 13 administrative staff that provide support to the program. Next slide, please. So the emergency response unit mitigates and releases and/or threats releases of hazardous substances posing a threat to public health and environment. They can also include respond to releases caused by natural or mandated disasters. This is just to let you know who they are. So these are the folks that are really going out there when there are emergencies, such as the recent fires that we had, and they are the ones that in the front lines to clear sites of hazardous waste before our CARISACTA would come in or other partner agencies come in to do debris removal. And the other program that we have in the ERD is we have a program that manages the Imperial County and the Trinity counties. This program also referred as the State Certified Unified Program Agency, or SCUPA. Again, they are part of the DTSC's program, and the Cal EPA had certified DTSC as being the CUPAs. Our state enforcement program protects public health and the environment by conducting regular inspections. This is the largest group of people that we have, and this is the under 6 of the branches within the program. And their main role is to do inspections of the hazardous waste facilities and generators, e-waste facilities, and transporters, and follow up on complaints and mismanagement of hazardous waste. Just a note here, the ERD management structure here, where we have just at branch chief level, we have over 163 years of experience, let alone the person that leads this division is Maria Soria, and she has at least 32 years of experience that she brings to this program. And I'm excited to work with this group, and they are really a group that does hold the generators and hazardous waste facilities in check, and to make sure they're in compliance with their permits and hazardous waste control law. Next slide, please. Again, what does ERD do? ERD inspects and it takes enforcement actions at permit hazardous waste facilities, tier permit facilities, and e-waste facilities, including hazardous waste generators and transporters. We also have a California-Mexico border program that inspects hazardous waste and hazardous materials shipments through our borders. This program inspects over 4,800 shipments, inspected over 4,800 shipments in 2019. We also have a robust, as I mentioned earlier, we have a robust emergency response team that responds to emergencies statewide. They respond to off-highway removals, clandestine drug labs, and spilled or abandoned hazardous waste materials. We have duty officers that are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week that respond to these emergencies. Again, I wanted to mention, I mentioned earlier about the wildfires. Our ERD staff and the support programs had this year managed, dealt with fires in 18 counties and assessed over 3,200 residential properties this year. And they removed approximately 20 tons of hazardous waste. We also partner and support our environmental justice communities and participate in the Cal EPA's EJ Task Force, and have taken enforcement actions in multiple of these task forces, including actions in Fresno, Los Angeles, Oakland, Pomona, Pearl County, and Stockton. Just of note, the Los Angeles and the Oakland projects we took on was a jewelry store focused, and at that time we sent teams of folks from our OCI and our premium folks, from our enforcement folks to inspect these jewelry stores, and that netted in a substantial amount of enforcement cases and shut down a lot of these distributors and illegal stores that manage illegal selling lead jewelry to the kids. As I said again, we are also designated CUPAs for Peel County and Trinity County. We also, not only we have a CUPAs, we also oversee the CUPA program, and this group evaluates the performance and implementation of the generating programs conducted by the 81 partner CUPAs in California. We also provide guidance and support to ensure their success. Next slide, please. As I had mentioned, we have several programs within ERD. I wanted to share with you just one aspect of what we do. I'm sorry, could you go forward one more slide? Okay, thank you. So I wanted to show you, highlight some of the work our enforcement and inspected activities in the ERD. So what we have here highlighted is 5 years of inspections and the compliance investigation that was done and the cases settled. Of note here is that 2016, that year we settled 2 major cases, and these are cases that had to do with 2 companies that manufactured wine bottles and that had lead in them, and the settlement ended as approximately $4 million, a little over $4 million for those 2 cases. And of course, there are other cases that netted some additional funds. Again, our enforcement actions, investigation enforcement actions do net settlement dollars, and these settlement dollars are fed into our SEPs, where it feeds back to the community. Those funds are provided to the communities to address some of the challenges, and some of these funds also goes to our orphan sites and the cleanup program. Also, all those funds are funneled to great programs. Next slide, please. So I wanted to share you an example. I'll share with you some of the outcomes that we have, or the Lean Six Sigma projects that we have done our program. Excuse me. The ERD had taken on implement 6 Lean Six Sigma projects, and these Lean Six Sigma projects had 4 goals that we laid out. And just to mention a couple of them here, we laid out a plan to complete our inspection reports in 30 days. For 90% of them. Regulatorily, we're required to complete these reports within 65 days. So we had laid out an aggressive schedule to complete those. And as of today, we have our goal has been at 64%, and we're moving forward to reaching that goal of 90%. In addition, we had a Lean Six Sigma that looked at assessing penalties for administrative cases and civil cases. Our goal for the administrative cases to complete those penalties within 4 days, and to complete the civil administrative penalties within 30 days. And again, we're making great progress toward that. We're averaging 50% now, and this program just got initiated. So there are a lot of lessons learned from it, and to support that program, the Lean Six Sigma project also brought out some additional activities that we had to do. Like, for example, we streamlined the inspection reports, and now we're converting those to have them to be electronic, so the inspectors could go out in the field and have their tablets along with them, and they actually could cite the violations and issue the SOVs or notice of violations. And when they go back to the office, literally they have to print the report, and they can get that inspection report completed quickly. This is exciting for us, and we're moving toward that end where every staff inspector will have a tablet. Similarly to the penalty evaluation, and that has been in the past had plagued us because of it took us many days to complete those. Now we're closing in on the target of completing those penalty assessment to 14 days or 30 days, depending on the type of cases they are. Next slide, please. So I want to highlight there are a lot of good cases that I could talk to you about today. I know the workload analysis, we had shown 3 different cases that we wanted to showcase. But I want to talk about this specific case. So this is a USS POSCO. This facility is located in a mental justice community, and our enforcement folks had gone to the site multiple times, conducted sampling, and demonstrated this facility was disposing of hazardous waste illegally, and we saw with this facility and netted approximately $800,000 in penalties and with injunctive relief language. Injunctive relief language, basically the facility had to correct and to continue and to report back to the department to continue being in compliance. The $800,000 also had SEPs or funding that was went back to the community, and the remaining at least 50% of that fund went to the communities, and the rest came back to the department for our orphan sites. Please look at your workload analysis. There are 2 good examples that we worked on in ERD that we wanted to showcase for you. Next slide, please. So this is a dashboard. This is really exciting. So this dashboard shows you the variety of activities and accomplishments gets done by ERD. It keeps track of our key KPIs. KPI stands for key performance indicators. These are they are laid out as goals for the program, and there are several key performance indicators that ERD tracks and reports back to the hazardous management program and to the department. In fact, I understand our KPIs for ERD and permitting, I'll talk about later, will be showcased in the department's strategic plan, and I understand that that'll be coming up shortly within the next couple of months. So we're excited to showcase the outcomes of the good work that our ERD folks are doing. I know this dashboard is very hard to see, but you do have the workload analysis, and you can blow it up. But it shows a lot of work that's done by a variety of programs within ERD. From basically, it helps track when did the inspection occur, and how long did it take, and whether that inspection report completed on time. To whether we have adequate whether our staff have taken their what's called HARP, or are they field ready. So there's a lot of information that's provided in this chart that it's very telling, and what we like to do. And the next steps for us is to have this dashboard on our website, so that all the managers and even staff could track the status of the work that ERD is doing, and to keep track of our accomplishments. Next slide, please. So this pie chart, we went through the analysis, and we had identified some resource gaps and areas that the ERD should focus on. And one of the areas that we looked at was the number of generators in California. There are approximately 100,000 generators in California. And inspecting these generators or facilities occur on a 1 to 5 year cycle, depending on the inspection schedule and depending on whether DTSC is doing it or the CUPAs are doing it. The hazardous waste generators comprise of 89% of the facilities in the hazardous waste universe. The inspection of these 92,000 hazardous waste generators inspection are delegated to our partner CUPAs. There are 81 CUPAs throughout California. DTSC has 2 of them, the Trinity County and Peel County. The CUPAs are also responsible for inspecting household hazardous waste facilities under the same statute. The remaining 11% of the universe include the e-waste facilities, collectors and handlers, tier-permitted facilities, transporters, and transportable treatment units, and hazardous waste facilities, including inactive hazardous waste transporters. Of course, there also that universe includes permitted, active operating permit facilities and post-closure permit facilities. ERD is solely responsible for the inspection and enforcement of the operating and post-closure permit facilities. The active and inactive registered hazardous waste transporters, the e-waste recyclers, and the TTUs, or transportable treatment unit facilities. ERD shares inspections and enforcement jurisdiction with the CUPAs for the generators as well, e-waste handlers, and the tier permitted and hazardous waste facilities. Next slide, please. What to show in this graphic is the scope of the work that's to be had within California. So, and as mentioned, there are 92,500 generators that are inspected by our CUPA partners. There are 81 delegated CUPAs and consist of approximately 900 inspectors within the 81 CUPAs. The CUPAs inspect these generators on a 3-year cycle. They're required to inspect a generator at least once every 3 years. In the 3-year period, specifically from 2016, the fiscal year 2016-17 to fiscal year 2018-19, which is a 3-year cycle, the CUPAs inspected only 76,748 out of the 92,000 generators. That left a gap, as you see in the graphic, left a gap of 15,842 generators went uninspected in that year 3 in the 3-year period. Another stat that part of analysis we found out of the 76,000 or so inspections, the CUPAs pursued enforcement action at only 200 hazardous waste generators. That's a rate of 0.3% of the total inspection that occurred. ERD's unified unit, part of our role is we inspect these CUPAs and we provide technical support and support them in and doing inspections and provide and track their performance. We logged over 4,000 hours in FY 18-19, conducted 22 CUPA evaluations and 36 CUPA inspections, and provide several technical trainings to them. I responded to 592 technical inquiries and attended 27 technical CUPA meetings. There's a lot of stats here I'm showing you, but again, we are entwined with our CUPAs, and the success of the CUPAs is really the success of the department and the agency. So therefore, we are heavily invested in their success. During the 3-year same period when we did provide Coupa support, where we did joint inspections, we did 130 inspections at that time. And when we were involved in these inspections, our inspections resulted in enforcement cases at 19% rate versus where the Coupa is doing on their own, which is a 0.3% rate. That's a drastic difference on the outcome of these inspections. So what's our findings here? So we compare the enforcement actions data from ERD's inspections to inspections conducted by the Coupa staff. It shows the Coupa staff may not be identifying some of these hazardous waste management violations, and potentially could be, potentially because of lack of training, lack of knowledge and regulations, lack of technical expertise. The Coupas, as well as the department, we have high rate of potential turnovers, and that leaves large gaps in their ability to conduct inspections that comes out to be an enforcement case. So next slide, please. So we identified a data gap, a resource gap that we could provide support to the Coupas. And we identified 4 additional positions. Excuse me, I'm on the wrong slide here. So we had looked at the resource needs. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm losing my spot on the slide here. We have identified that we could do additional support to our Coupas, and we identified 8 positions that we could provide to the program. To again, those 8 positions, we would like to use it to provide technical trainings for the Coupas, do joint inspections, and to do performance evaluations so that the Coupas could come up to speed and learn from our inspectors how to do these inspections. We're looking at 8 positions that to facilitate that resource gap, to bring that service level up. Next slide, please. So we also identified the ERD received earlier on, part of the environmental justice BCP, one of the BCPs that we had, budget change proposal, we received 2 positions for ERD to conduct inspections of the transporters. And as you may know, there are approximately 6,000 generators, registered and unregistered hazardous waste transporters out there. Many of these hazardous waste transporters park their vehicles in communities that are significantly impacted by multiple source pollutions. In 2016, like I said, I had mentioned earlier, we received 2 positions, and we were very successful to take in a great number of enforcement actions against these hazardous waste transporters. And during that time, we conducted inspections of 831 registered hazardous waste transporters on a 5-year cycle. And annually, inactive and registered transporters with no inspection history are added statewide on a regular basis. The goal here is to conduct to bring our rate of inspection, instead of on a 5-year cycle, to a 3-year cycle, or to conduct, again, by numbers, to conduct 277 inspections annually. I apologize, you guys are looking at the wrong slide. So can you move back to the previous slide? Thank you. So this is a chart that I was talking about. With that, there are approximately over 5,000 transporters, and on a 3-year cycle, we inspect these facilities, and 277 out of the total number there. And out of those inspections, we come out with 144 enforcement cases. With additional positions, we were like, with totaling a 14 position, we can increase that number of inspections at a higher rate, and to include inspections of non-registered transporters that continue to operate. Next slide, please. ERD is also responsible for implementing the VSP program. This includes evaluating and calculating all inspections and facility scores and assigning compliance tier for each of these facilities on an annual basis. In FY 18-19, the enforcement reassigned 4 inspectors to meet the workload demands of the scoring process. Reassessing 4 staff for the SP resulted in and will continue to result in the following. Again, this program is key to the department. It's a new policy program within the DTSC that really highlights, holds the hazardous waste facilities accountable, holds DTSC accountable, and brings transparency how we manage these hazardous waste facilities. However, we had to redirect 4 positions to this program to implement that program, and that ended up with we're taking staff from different key projects, and again, we decreased our number of inspections, and for the transporters, we also decreased the number of how we manage inspection of critical permanent facilities in environmental justice communities. And again, we're also enabled to fulfill training and outreach requirements as part of environmental justice and US EPA grant commitments. And it's key for us that we resource these programs and to fund the VSP program. So we're seeking, the data gap seeks 4 additional positions statewide to not only to implement the VSP program and again to continue doing this work. Again, this is a key policy for the department, and having these resources available to continue this effort is instrumental. In addition to this, the permitting program, along with the ERD, is going back into revisiting the regulations to strengthen additional elements in the VSP that will additional resources will be needed. And we're seeking 4 additional positions for ERD, and I'll talk about it in permitting in the next slides. However, we also need additional resources for our legal office. A lot of these VSP scores netted, as with compliance issue and requiring the facility to bring changes to their operations, and for our permit program to take additional actions to either to deny, revoke, or do permit modification to bring in more stringent requirements of the facilities. Next slide, please. So key takeaways. Again, as I discussed, a property resource enforcement emergency response program, we could take enforcement actions earlier. We could prevent further spread of contamination. As an example, I had showed you with USS POSCO, we hold polluters accountable. Again, we provide key technical and enforcement support to our local CUPAs, and they depend on the support that we give them. Next slide, please.
Okay. No, thank you. Thank you, Rizgar. Given that we have 2 minutes before the next presentation, I have at least one person who has been waiting to be on the queue, so we'll go ahead and provide him an opportunity to actually have his answer. And then on that, then we're going to transition to the 3rd presentation, and then we'll provide the link through the chat for y'all to either transition to that, and then we'll get a 5-minute break, and then we'll start at 4:05. So with that, I'll have Winston ask this question. So Winston, if you can unmute yourself.
All right. So very briefly, I was looking for the slide with regard to accomplishments, and I appreciate what you shared. In looking at it, the information is activity oriented. What do you have? Do you have indicators of your accomplishment in terms of your improvement in terms of the environment in California and human health? Is the question that I have for you. You know, Caltrans is measured by how many roads they maintain or add to the system, and the Air Resources Board measures their accomplishments based upon indicators associated with the public health implications of air quality and the reduction of those contributors to health costs to the economy associated with that air pollution. So what's your measure of accomplishment associated with the environment and human health?
Thank you, Winston, for that question. Absolutely. So you're talking about outputs versus outcomes. What is the outcomes? What is our enforcement program does that gives you outcomes to give us a better California, a better environment to live in California? Again, the nature of our enforcement program and our OCI is more of a preventative mechanism. So this is there's a consequence if you pollute, if you take illegally managed hazardous waste. And the idea here is, again, what the slide shows you, that what we have outputs and the outcomes is described in our strategic plan. That's something about that I want to show you is what are the outputs? What does this mean when we inspect 10,000 facilities, or all the hazardous waste facilities on a cycle from 1 year to 3, and what kind of outcomes do we get? So those are the things that really, it's not described in that slide you're looking at. That's more of an accomplishment. I did talk about the key performance indicators. So if we take certain actions against facilities, number of facilities, there is an outcome of that. And again, this is a reduction of violations and trying to drop the number of violations. So those are described in our strategic plan, and hopefully that we can showcase that to you in the future. Absolutely, this slide is not more about the accomplishments and outcomes versus outputs.
So Winston, thanks for that question. That's a great question. Tracking metrics is something the department has begun doing in the past several years. And to your point, they are a bit widget focused. I'm very familiar with Caltrans tracking of the number of highway miles that they're responsible for managing. I know they've been working for a long time to tie that into, what the outcome is, whether it's improved economy, increased goods movement. Similarly with us, we're looking at, its impact on overall environmental health in the state and what our activities do to contribute to that outcome. So we are planning on releasing a dashboard in the near future that is still fairly widget driven, but really would appreciate some conversation about, what outcomes we should be tracking our programs to in terms of the impact of increased enforcement, increased inspections on the overall environmental health.
Francesca, if I could just add the comment, look, if you, with this particular area of focus, inspections, enforcement, if human health or life was really an important metric, it would seem to me you'd really focus on meth labs and make sure that you find them and close them down as quickly as possible, as compared to other areas focus. Now, I don't know if that's right or not. But that kind of thinking is why I brought the question up. When you deploy the scarce resources that you have in this particular area of the department, do you have some metric that you're using to decide where you're going to focus your resources? That's why I asked it. Thank you.
Great question. Thank you. And we do have an illegal drug lab program that's funded, and we do emergency response in that area that you mentioned. So, but thank you for your question.
So with that, given that we are going to be transitioning to the 4 o'clock presentation, we're already 3 minutes over. We're going to go ahead and the chat, we went ahead and provided a link again. So we are going to go and transition. So please join us for the second 2 presentations are going to be on permitting and also regarding the policy program support branch. I see a couple questions still through the chat. We will love to answer those questions, and we will definitely follow up with individuals who provided those questions so we can provide an answer. We will come back to the presentation within at least 5 minutes, so around 4:10. So for y'all to just get a little break, but we'll be on in the next presentation. Okay, so thank you for that and see you in a bit.